Once upon a time, in a small, quiet village surrounded by green fields and soft morning light, there lived a couple named Lina and Daniel. Their house was small, their life simple, but they had something priceless, a child whose laughter filled their days with warmth. Daniel worked hard in the fields every morning. He was calm, honest, and thankful for the little they had. But Lina was different. Each morning, as she swept the floor and tidied the room, she would sigh and look around. "These walls look so old," she murmured, "and this furniture so dull. Look at Grace's house across the road. Bright, shiny, beautiful. Why can't we live like that?" Daniel would smile gently. "Lina, we have food to eat, a roof to sleep under, and our child is healthy. That is enough." But Lina never agreed. In her heart, she always believed that others lived better, smiled brighter, and had more than she did. One afternoon, her neighbor Grace brought home a set of new, polished wooden chairs. All the villagers gathered to see them, the air filled with admiration and laughter. From her window, Lina watched in silence, jealousy rising in her chest. That night, while Daniel repaired the roof, Lina said sharply, "Grace has new chairs, and we sit on old stools. Everyone must be laughing at us." Daniel's voice was calm, steady. "A chair won't make us happier, Lina. Let's save what little we have. Our child's cough is getting worse. We'll need medicine soon." But Lina turned away. She didn't want to listen. Days passed. Then came another rumor. Grace had bought a brand new television set. The whole neighborhood crowded outside her door. Children cheered as colorful lights flickered on the screen. Lina stood in the corner, her heart whispering, "How beautiful! How grand! Everyone admires them." That night, she couldn't sleep. Every color she'd seen danced behind her eyelids. From the next morning onward, Lina talked of nothing else. "If Grace can have a television, why can't we? When people pass by our house, they should see we have something too." Daniel tried again, his voice soft but firm. "Lina, our child still needs medicine. We can barely afford food. A television might bring pride, not peace." But Lina's mind was already made up. "One day," she said proudly, "we'll have one, and everyone will notice us." So Daniel worked harder than ever. Under the burning sun, he tilled the soil, sold vegetables, and finally earned a small bag of coins. He smiled with relief, thinking, "At last I can buy the medicine." But when he came home that evening, the coins were gone. Lina stood by the door, smiling with excitement. "I gave an advance at the shop. Next week, our television will arrive." Daniel froze. His heart sunk as his eyes moved across the cracked walls, the leaking roof, the sick child lying weak on the bed. But Lina's eyes were fixed on her dream. A week later, a big truck stopped outside. Men carried a large, shining television into their little house. Neighbors gathered once again. Lina stood proudly by the doorway, smiling as everyone watched. "Now they'll know we're no less than Grace," she thought. When Daniel returned home that evening, he stood silent. "You spent all our savings," he said quietly. "And what about the medicine?" Lina waved her hand. "We'll manage later. But look, people finally noticed us." That night, rain poured down. Water dripped through the ceiling. The child coughed in the corner. Still, Lina sat near the glowing screen, lost in its bright colors, pretending the storm wasn't real. Days turned into weeks. Whispers spread through the village. Lina bought the biggest TV, but her child is always sick. Poor Daniel, he never complains. Lina heard them, but she turned the volume louder every time their voices reached her. Then, one morning, her child's breathing grew weak. Daniel begged, "Let's sell the TV, Lina. Let's take him to the hospital." But Lina cried out, "No! Do you want the village to laugh at us again? We'll find another way." That night, the fever rose higher. Daniel ran for help, but it was too late. Before dawn, their little one was gone. The silence that followed was heavier than rain, colder than wind. The television still stood in the corner, its screen black, its light gone. Days crawled by in grief. Grace came quietly and placed a hand on Lina's shoulder, but Lina didn't speak. Her eyes were empty, her heart hollow. Then, one silent evening, a sudden crash broke the stillness. Their old cat Milo had jumped onto the television stand. The fragile screen tipped and fell. With one sharp sound, it shattered. Lina stared at the wreck on the floor. The one thing she had valued above her family was gone in seconds. That night, she sat outside with Daniel under the pale moon. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, Lina whispered, "You warned me, but I didn't listen. I chased pride and lost everything that truly mattered." Daniel reached over and gently took her hand. "Let's forgive, Lina. Let's begin again. We still have each other, and that's enough." From that day, Lina changed. She stopped comparing her life to others. She mended the leaking roof, planted flowers by the doorway, and smiled again, not because of things, but because of peace. Children passing by could hear laughter once more. Neighbors said, "Maybe happiness doesn't come from gold or gadgets. Maybe it lives in gratitude." As the sun set behind the green fields, Lina looked up at the glowing sky and whispered softly, "Thank you, Lord, for teaching me to love the life I already have." And though their house was still small, their hearts were finally big enough for joy.